What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Shenmue the Animation. This is episode 8, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yep. So this episode was, I would say it's slightly better than the last episode, but I do feel like that Ryo's like quest to try to search for the different tenets of the wood is kind of dragging the plot down a little bit. And not to mention the fact that I think we're episode 8 right now, and then we only have like 4 more episodes left before the season ends.
It is strange because it does feel like the pacing has slowed down quite significantly as opposed to the last most of Shenmue 1. It felt like the pace was pretty fast, and there were some things that definitely glossed over. But then when we got to Shenmue 2, it felt like the pacing was kind of going to be the same in the beginning, and now like with Ryo trying to learn about the wood, it feels like the pacing has kind of slowed down pretty substantially. Like, not that I mind that, but it kind of is concerning because it makes me feel like because there is quite a bit that they still have to go over for the plot of Shenmue 2. And if they're kind of going at this pace in these last, if they keep this pace, then I'm not really sure how they're going to be able to cover everything. I think they're probably what's most likely going to happen, and I'm kind of afraid of this, is that the pace might get, out of nowhere, just get really quick, and they'll just kind of again gloss over some details of the plot of Shenmue 2 just to get to a certain point in the story, and then it'll kind of just be pretty fast paced up until the end of the season, which I kind of hope doesn't happen. But the pacing being the way it was for these past couple episodes, it kind of has me a little bit worried. Yeah.
So in this episode, Ryo, actually no, it's Li Xiao instructs Ryo, who's now staying over at her place to pay the rent, to perform like these different errands around the temple, like cleaning out the books in the library. But of course, Ryo's pretty adamant in wanting Li Xiao's help to find what was it, Yuan the Zhu. But she
is her real name Xu Ying? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Xu Ying is her real name. It's Li Xiao's her alias name. But yeah, Xu Ying of course like still refuses to help Ryo out and looking for Yuan the Zhu, and of course Ryo reluctantly decides to help out, going about his errands, and of course at the same time he gets help by Xu Ying's assistant Feng Mei, who doesn't really initially takes a liking to Ryo due to his attitude, but eventually by the end of this episode she starts to warm up to him a little bit.
Yeah, and I believe that's because she, I guess, better understands his circumstances or something. After like eavesdropping on him.
Yeah, so the majority of this episode is Ryo just trying to find out more about the wood tenets. So he tries going around.
It's more so he's trying to find a specific martial artist, I think.
Yeah, well, that knows like the wood tenets, but of course, unfortunately, he has no luck trying to find a specific martial artist that knows that. So he has what was it, Joy and her little friend, I think Wong, to help out from time to time. Of course, like they have these little chats with Wong teasing Joy that she sort of has like is talking like if she has a crush on Ryo or something, and then Joy kind of tries to talk that down at times, but I
mean, she can't really explain as to why she's following Ryo around other than just because, basically, which, I mean, it's not very convincing.
Yeah, and eventually, like I think eventually, I think Joy and Wong overhear that there is this martial artist that's fighting off these what was it, loan shark hooligans that are trying to evict her from her place. So they tell Rio about this, and then eventually Rio comes in and helps this woman out, and then he fights off the loan sharks.
So Rio actually did encounter this woman earlier. She he ran into her on the street and almost like broke like a package she was carrying around, which ended up being a tea set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much how he got introduced to her. We also kind of get introduced to these loan shark characters earlier in the episode too, how they're kind of going around and shaking various people down and trying to get them to leave their homes so that they can destroy them and like redevelop. Because Joy explains to Rio that's kind of like what they've been doing around Hong Kong, is they're trying to destroy some of the old buildings and basically like build new ones on top of it.
Yeah, and of course they go over the circumstances of how the people are living in Hong Kong during that specific time of like poverty and like having to survive in the streets, just like Wong is trying to do.
Yeah, we should also mention that Rio also runs into another martial artist that, of course, doesn't end up being the one that I think that Rio is really looking for. I think she's the one that gives him a lead on where he should look next or something, kind of like how in the game where you talk to various people and you find out where you should go. But yeah, this, like, she spars a bit with him, and then it ends up kind of trying to tell him like where he should try to look. But yeah, like this episode really is starting to feel more and more like the games, where Rio is just kind of going to different places and trying to find different people, and this person might know where to go, and then he goes to another person who might know where that other person is or something like that. It's kind of like how it is in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit better than the last episode, because the last episode involved a lot of backtracking with Rio going back and forth between the mall and the temple from time to time. So Rio, like I said, Rio helps out the old woman that he helped out from earlier before to fight off the land sharks, and she it's revealed that she is one of the martial artists that knows one of the Wu tenants, and I think she says that you should not hesitate to help other people, and one of the Wu tenants that she gives Rio is I think it was pronounced Yi.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to like Rio in this episode being a little bit impatient and trying to just, find out more about Yuan de Zhu. And he pretty much learns like, one of the tenets is that I think it has to do with him not like, being so focused on one particular thing and having the patience to know, I guess, that it'll eventually come to him or something like that. Because he does have a conversation with I forget the guy's name, but one of the monks in the temple about that thing and about that in particular, I guess. But yeah, like I think he also does like what was it? He we should mention too, like in regards to the him cleaning out the library. Technically, like that apparently is part of his training, because the library contains these like, I guess, important texts or something, and they're like Fang Mei. This is actually like there's also kind of the whole thing with Fang Mei in this episode where she doesn't really like Rio at first, and Rio is like one day I think he's like late to clean out the library, and that kind of starts to sour her opinion of him even more. And it's kind of near the end of the episode where she like decides to follow him, that she starts to learn more about like his circumstances after eavesdropping on him. So then she has like, I guess, a sort of like newfound respect for him. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, of course, after Rio learns the one of the new tenets of the Wu, he goes back to the temple and tells Xu Ying what he's learned. And Xu Ying basically, like, she still refuses to help him because she sensed that he's pretty much on a revenge quest, and she refuses to help him like murder somebody. And this is most likely because she's dealt with something similar in the past, because we have gotten these like vague flashbacks with her, but we don't really know the context of it yet. But I guess we can assume that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there is another scene with her earlier with Shu-Ying with Feng Mei, I think on a shopping trip. And they run into like these two kids being hassled by, I guess you could say I don't know if they're like thugs or like loan sharks, but yeah. So she kind of helps like, well, she doesn't really technically fight them off. She just really intimidates them to the point where, they just run off. And then the boy who's trying to defend her sister from those guys, is determined to deal out some punishment on those guys. But Shu-Ying discourages them from following that path, which is similar to what she tells Rio later on this episode.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point, it's kind of we're not really sure how Rio is going to end up convincing her to actually help him out. But I think that's more or less where the episode ends. Like, I agree. I thought it was a fairly decent episode, but like I said, I feel like the pacing does need to pick up at least in the next episode, because otherwise, I'm not really sure how they're going to cover most of the important plot points from the second game. Oh, I should also mention we do see the this one girl that Rio gets information from in this episode that I guess she's like a cashier at a convenience store. I remember her from the game. She's like somebody like, I don't think she's like an important NPC, but I remember like she like kind of flirts with Rio from time to time. So I'm wondering if they're going to include that in the animation. I kind of doubt it, but like,
I don't think so. I mean, we've seen a lot of these side characters appearing even like from the earlier episodes, and we don't even see them again shortly afterwards. So I don't think
from the first game that like cleaned his motorcycle, like you actually talked to him quite a few different times in the first game, but I think they only included him in like what was it, like one scene, I think, and then they just kind of never showed him again.
I mean, I think
even Tom, like I was kind of, I guess I didn't mention this before, like I was kind of surprised they didn't show Tom as much, because Tom was the show. Tom definitely, you talked to him quite a bit in the game too, but Tom only got like, I feel like he only got like a few scenes in the when they were adapting the first game. So yeah, there are definitely some NPCs you talk to quite a bit that they kind of got shafted, I think, in the adaptation of Shenmue 1.
I mean, it's for obvious reasons, just due to the fact that they're having to deal with time constraints and making a 13 episode season. If it was like a 2-core series, then maybe we would have gotten some more time with these characters. But I think so far, like I think the first half right now, particularly the Shenmue 1 storyline, I think it's adapted fairly well, in my opinion. But right as of right now, like as soon as like they moved into the Shenmue 2 storyline, it kind of, like you said, it kind of like dragged down the pacing a little bit due to Rio just going back and forth learning these tenets. Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering this too, like if they were going to include some of the games that Rio plays, or like or some of the side jobs he takes on to get money, like in the game, like you take on the like advertising for the Lucky Hit game in Shenmue 2, and I kind of thought about stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, they're kind of skipping over that. I guess it makes sense, but yeah, I guess it would have been kind of funny just as a little bit of a, just a little gag, I guess, if they had Rio doing that. But I guess, like you said, they just don't have time to go over that stuff. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about the episode. Like I said, I'm just a little bit concerned as to how the pacing of the series so far. Like I said, I hope it picks up, but I hope it doesn't go like too fast or anything to where it glosses over like way too much stuff. Because there is still quite a few things I need to go over. I think they're not even really halfway through the events of Shenmue 2 at this point. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else to say about the episode.
Yeah, but like I said, it was an okay episode, slightly better than the last one. But I'm just really hoping that the plot progresses a little bit more in next week's episode, rather than having to witness the same thing that Rio has done over the past 2 episodes again. So hopefully there'll be some progression, maybe involve Ren more into the story, hopefully soon.
Yeah, because we didn't see Ren at all in this episode.
No.
So yeah, so that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.